How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, this will be a quick discussion. We're going to talk about a staff's first day should reflect your culture's best day. And this is coming from a book I just released right now on ebook. It's called Warden Wisdom, 100 Subtle Lessons in Prison Leadership. Guys, this book is thick. It's around 680 pages. Again, it's an ebook, but I did send it over to the publisher for their chance to make it into a soft cover publication. Right now, it's available as an ebook for $9.99, and this book will partner well with the other two books we put out as an ebook, Rank Before Ready and Surviving Without a Mentor. I think these books are needed. They fill the gap. But there was a passage in this book, Warden's Wisdom, and the title of the passage is "A Staff's First Day Should Reflect Your Culture's Best Day." And I shared it out with the group, and we got a lot of good positive feedback. So I thought me and Russ today could break down the passage and give you some insight on why this is important, because this really deals with training. So even if we get heavy recruitment and we're playing that role, are they going into a facility where they're well received? It's a partnership effort. You know, you can't blame that we're not doing enough if when they get into the facility, they are not being accepted. So this is the other half of that plan, technically, recruitment, retention. And my guest today is going to be Russ Hamilton. What up, Russ?
Good morning, Anthony. How's it going?
Good, Russ. Hey, Russ, you mind introducing yourself and let us know what you got going on?
Sure. I think everyone out there probably knows me, but anyway, my name's Russ Hamilton. I am a former and now retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections. Started my career way back in 1989 at San Quentin State Prison. Eventually moved on from there and promoted, ended up retiring, went to work as a senior juvenile correctional officer. I currently work for a company, a private company that does reentry and rehabilitation work for a local probation department and a local county jail where I am a case manager. And I am also the founder of Keepers of Chaos on Facebook. That's Chaos with a K. And we do all sorts of, mentoring, content, training, camaraderie, everything for everyone who is employed in corrections, not just those with the badges. And right now I am working on a book with a current working title, something along the lines of Complacency in Corrections. And I just finished up 3 more chapters in the past couple of days that really take a look at real life cases of complacency and so forth. And I think that's about it for right now.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, and guys, this knowledge is put out there because we're trying to fill the gaps. And it also lets people know corrections is not that easy of a profession. We wouldn't be able to write all these books and the stuff that we're doing if we were just babysitters. Okay, so Russ, right now, obviously we're understaffed. So there is going to be a partnership effort there should be a partnership effort to recruit people and retain them. That's the key. So guys, these aren't two isolated events. These are partnership efforts where we both have a level of responsibility and accountability towards. That means if we're bringing people to the facility and we hand them off, then the facility has to take the ball and move forward with those individuals. And I want the facility to know you are not getting perfection when they come your way. Let's just make that clear. If they've been exhausted through whatever it is to be recruited, whatever that background check, whatever it is that, is that filter, that initial filter, and recruitment does what they can to get them to your front door, that's the next mission goes to you. And this is the harder part. This is the retention. This is where you have to be involved in helping them make that decision that this will be a career for them and not just a fly-by-night job. So I broke down this passage. All the passages in this book, Warden's Wisdom, has multiple sections. They are meant for discussion. Now, it's funny, guys. The people that pick up our books, the ones that Russ is going to write, the one that I write, or the ones I've written, you would like to think that people will pick them up when they need something, but not everybody realizes what they need. They automatically assume that the knowledge in these books is something that they've heard before, and it's not, guys. These are exhausted tips. They're nuances. These are tips that you may know to some extent, but it hasn't been explained at this level. And the reason why this book is also written, or these books are written, is so you can share these thoughts with somebody else. That's the key. So it's not just about self-growth, but sharing it. So again, so here's the first part. We got a staff's first day should reflect your culture's best day. So the tagline here, Russ, is because if their first impression is dysfunction, they'll believe that's the standard. So in corrections, first impressions aren't just fleeting moments. They're foundational truths. When a new staff member walks into your facility for the first time, they're walking into your culture with fresh eyes and high hopes. That's their most impressionable state. They're vulnerable, open, and watching everything. And in that window, often just hours or days long, they will decide if this profession is where they belong. It's not just about orientation paperwork, a badge photo, or being told where to stand. It's about how they're received. Do they feel like they're entering a place where people support each other, or do they feel like they just stepped into a cold, closed system where they'll have to survive alone? And for too many facilities, it's the latter. What's your thoughts, Russ?
Just entering a correctional facility, for the first time, second time, or whatever, can be, really rather kind of daunting. I think that if you don't have some sort of visceral reaction to it, maybe you're a little bit complacent, or maybe you're not really understanding of what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. So, having said that, I mean, the culture is what we see on our first day. And believe me, I've heard plenty of stories and been there myself where that culture was, not welcoming, standoffish, and just, waiting for you to do something that gives them a justification for accepting you or rejecting you. And that's not the standard we should be playing out. The standard we should be playing out is welcoming people in, getting them on board, setting them up for success, telling them what our mission in the moment is, and then giving them some good ways to model what it is that we do as corrections professionals. It's not being a corrections professional just to let someone sink or swim. That is not the way to imbue what our profession should be standing for. We should be there propping them up, giving them everything that they can to succeed. And then if they fail, there's no question about, where the failure lies. It lies with them and not with us. And yet time and time again, we've seen where that's not the norm. That's not the model. That's not what's being done. So, and my first day, that's what it was like. First day, death row, East Block, Bayside, fifth tier. And there I am, up there 30, 40 minutes early and ready to take over. And the guy just throws everything on the desk, says not one word, and just walks away. Like, what am I supposed to do? I know I'm supposed to read my post orders. Where are they? And so it became a thing where actually probably was that, dangerous? Yeah, it's death row. And yet that was the culture at the time with some people, not everybody. I'm not just gonna generalize that across to say everyone was that way, because I had a lot of people that actually did take me under the wing and helped mold me for the future. But having said that, everyone should be on board with bringing new people on and helping them succeed.
Yeah, and guys, the part that gets to me when you're reading this is the window, often just hours or days long. They will decide in this profession if this is where they belong. Guys, when I first got into this profession, you want to connect with people, and I think it's the people that reinforce your connection to the job. I've been offered chances to leave the profession early in my career as well, better opportunities, but I love the people I was working around. So when it came to making choices, I wind up staying in the profession because of the people. When you're working in corrections, it could be extremely negative. I get it. But when you have positive moments with good, positive people, it amplifies the moment. It adds so much more to it. So if we're not taking advantage of trying to connect with the individual when they come in and build a connection, so they see you through, or they see the profession through you, that's the key. They see the humanity side. People work for people. It literally is what it is. People don't leave professions because of the profession. They leave it because of the people that they're exposed to. They leave it because of bad management. So at the end of the day, we have to welcome them in. We have to play our role. And, like Russ said, a lot of people will come up with excuses not to connect to you. The sink or swim, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but that method doesn't work. All it does is force someone to be in survival mode and build animosity because they're doing all the work. And, you're just sitting there putting your feet up because having a rookie around makes your day a bit easier. And we'll get to that. All right. So first part I have here is where we lose them. Now, remember, guys, this is the pass off, because I know a lot of officers that work in the facilities, when they talk about not having enough staffing, they don't take into account their own accountability towards that. They'll blame recruitment. They'll say management's not doing enough. And then, an effort to validate what we're doing and justify, we go, well, we passed them off to you. The people aren't leaving during recruitment. The people aren't leaving when they're in the academy. Some of them are making it through. They're making it through. But when they get to you, they're leaving. So the loss, we could take shared accountability, but at the end of the day, you're responsible too. And again, we're not passing off perfection. We're passing off potential. All right. So where we lose them, the corrections field is finally making real efforts to bring in new recruits. Recruitment teams are working overtime. Agencies are offering incentives, and academies are pushing people through to meet staffing needs. But then those new hires walk through the gates and everything falls apart. No one greets them. They're handed off, not welcomed. They're partnered with someone disgruntled, burned out, or completely uninterested in training. And they're put in high-risk housing units with little direction. They're told this is how it really is. Forget what you're told in the academy. And just like that, the spark they walked in with begins to flicker out. In many cases, it's not the profession they end up walking away from. It's the people. It's the feeling of being ignored, dismissed, or excluded from the very place they were hoping to belong. And I want to mention something, because I know it mentions about speeding through the academy or working with it. I mean, in my day, people would literally say, forget everything you learned in the academy. This is when you really learn it, which I don't believe that's the case. I believe there's a partnership. I believe there's knowledge to be gained, but then the application of it does come when you work in the facility. That's where, again, knowledge becomes wisdom. But, a lot of people will use excuses. Yeah, you're just speeding people through. Guys, at the end of the day, we know where the greatest learning takes place. The greatest learning takes place on those tiers when you're in the environment in which you have to apply that knowledge. So again, what are we passing off to you? We're passing off potential, not perfection, potential. But Russ, would you agree with this? When no one's greeting them, they're being handed off, not welcome. And Keepers of Chaos, you always promote, we got to make a better environment for the rookies. And then when you find out, when we get messaged a lot that a rookie decided not to stay in the profession, maybe after a few weeks, months, years, whatever it is, maybe a year or so, the first thing they say is it's nothing to do with the profession, because they kind of knew what they were walking into. The only difference is me and Russ, we try to push a welcoming environment. And when they went into an environment that wasn't welcoming, that's the one thing that pushed them out.
Yeah. And, as I alluded to before, that tends to be, kind of a model that's used. Just this whole thing about, being standoffish, acting like, well, you know what? You're not one of us yet. And, that's kind of a us versus them mentality. And it should be, all of us together against, what our potential threats are. So, it's just something that really I don't understand, how it got to be that way. Because it's certainly not a good model. But sometimes, maybe within the depth of all of the danger, all of the, necessary bravado and so forth, we just ended up with kind of a bad model in some ways. And people really need to take it under advisement and, game it all out and figure out, hey, what is a better model for us to use? How can we supercharge and superstart all of these people and really, get them, running from the beginning, to start functioning as that correctional officer professional.
Yeah, and then and you're spot on, Russ, because the next section I have here is the dangerous myth of earning it. There's a dangerous mindset that still exists in some pockets of our profession, especially among senior staff, that rookies need to earn their place before they're fully accepted. That trust must be earned, not given. But let's be honest, that's not about standard. That's about exclusion. When someone enters this field and is treated like a second-class citizen, given the worst assignments, left to learn by trial and error, and brushed off when they ask questions, we're not holding them to a higher standard. We're punishing them out. The door. Corrections should have a family-like environment. We don't have to sugarcoat the job, but we also don't have to harden the people who walk into it, especially not right away. The standard should be this: they've already earned our support by showing up. Now it's our job to guide them forward. And that's in alignment, right? Remember, we survived sink or swim. Remember that, Russ?
But we really want to move beyond that, because I think here is the thing is I think that what we do is we're not pushing people out the door who can't hack it. What happens is we push people toward the door, and we stifle them, and we suppress their initial growth spurt. And then they just kind of become either hangers on, or some of them are able to work beyond that and, become, very good or even great employees. But there's a bunch more then that are just, they're disenfranchised, and they become the bitter ones who, are actually pretty good at their job, but they just choose not to do their job in a good way. And then we're left with this mix of people who are, constantly bickering back and forth. And, what kind of an environment is that? Is that anything that anyone really wants to stay in? No, they show up and maybe the pay is good, or they're looking to get a pension. And instead of looking to push the boundaries towards, becoming the best possible correctional officer they can be, they're there to be the best placeholder that's possible. And I think that's where we're really falling down.
Yeah. And guys, it's funny how this very first part here where it says there's a dangerous mindset that still exists in some pockets of our profession, especially among senior staff, that rookies need to earn their place before they're fully accepted. That trust must be earned, not given. But let's be honest, that's not about standards. That's about exclusion. Guys, it's funny how trust eventually equated to rookies not feeling supported. Ain't that unique? How some of us will use the excuse that, well, I'm not going to engage with them because I don't know what they're about yet. Okay, but they need you. Someone's coming into the job. It's their first day. They're vulnerable. They need guidance, and you're pushing them towards the inmate population, sadly, because if you're not providing them support, the inmates will. 100% they will. So the funny thing is I like how trust somehow equated to support, because in the rookie's mind, when you're saying you're not trusting them and you're pushing them away, all the rookie sees is, I'm not getting support. I'm not feeling supported. And now I get it. Me and Russ have been kind of heartbroken when we work with somebody from the distance. We follow up on their messages through the channel, through Keepers of Chaos, where they got a whole mess of mentors that are welcoming them in and really selling the profession on every level. Selling, not sugarcoating, but selling the profession. And it's a complex profession. But don't worry, you have people that's going to help you through it. And they go into that profession on day one, and they're not received, and they don't have that connection that they developed through social media, technically, through the Facebook groups. So now they get a chance to try to connect with someone right next to them, and they can't find that type of reception in their own facility. And when me and Russ read that, it breaks our heart, because we're also trying to bring people in this profession, because our videos, you know, people look from the people that are thinking about going into the profession, people that are relatively new, people that are thinking about they should stay in the profession. So we put a lot of good information out there. And the moment someone comes back, like if it's the technicality of the job, me and Russ or Joe, we can always work people through the nuances of trying to be your best in this profession. But the one thing that we can't do is help you technically get through the people that aren't receiving you, because at the end of the day, that person has to battle that and feel alone. And as much as we try to give them advice, they have to live and breathe it. And it just should not be advice that we should have to be able to provide here. You guys should be over there picking that ball up and inviting that rookie to the point where they feel included on day one. All right, so who they first meet matters. So one of the most important decisions a leader makes is who to assign as the rookie's first partner, because who they shadow becomes what they believe about this profession. If that person's burned out, negative, or checked out, the message is loud and clear. This place will break you too. Get used to it. And that's where we lose them. Most new hires who leave early aren't leaving because of the inmates. They're leaving because they don't want to become the person they're shadowing. They didn't sign up to be bitter, cynical, or emotionally detached. But when that's their first example of success, it becomes the only blueprint they know. As leaders, we must take ownership of this. Are we placing people in front of our recruits to reflect the values we claim to hold? Are we placing people in those critical roles because they're connected or because they're competent? Do our trainers actually want to train, or are they using rookies as personal assistants? Because if the first message is you're on your own, don't be surprised when they leave. What's your thoughts, Russ?
Yeah, just general lack of support, especially when it's kind of institutionalized, when that's kind of the fabric that you meet kind of everywhere through the department, or even just the institution or the unit. That's not something that's really sustainable in a good way, because then everything is just based on a bunch of hate and loathing throughout every level of it. And what are you going to end up with? You're going to end up people who are either leaving, wish that they could leave, or just aren't going to be engaged. And we don't want any of that, because that all impacts safety and security. So I think that there's a message out there to stay within the positive, the best that you can. I'm not saying that we should sugarcoat it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't examine the things that are negative, and or just let them go. But I think that staying positive and being upbeat and looking to fulfill the mission and understanding the values that you provide to society, to your fellow brothers and sisters, and even to the inmates, is something that's ultimately worthwhile. And so focus on that, and understand that there are good things that you can eke out of each and every day. Not every day is going to be a diamond, but not every day needs to be a stone either.
Yeah, and guys, when we come to talk about shifting perspective, it's just kind of taking people out of the hopeless mindset, because then again, you settle into it. So it's good to have people that understand, yeah, we're going through something now, but I trust in the people around me that we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it together. And that's the key. I have seen rookies take a class, and I've watched the senior officer teach the class who's disgruntled, going over concerns that the rookie doesn't even know. They're new. They don't understand these concerns just yet. And then that same person that's teaching the class, who may not realize that he's pushing these people out. He's even telling them, why do you even choose this career? What are you doing in this career right now? If I had the chance to do it again, I wouldn't be here. And just kind of pushes the message. But then they're the same people at other meetings saying, we're not doing enough. And we got to get more people. It's like, well, wait a second. You're the head of training. We gave you people. They're not leaving in the academy side. They're not leaving during recruitment. They've been recruited in. They're leaving in their first couple of days. Well, they weren't ready for the profession. Well, then that's your job to make them ready. Help prepare them. We're not giving you perfection. We're giving you potential. And I remember a rookie, I asked them on an exit, what happened? Why did you leave, with less than a month in? And that's when he said, I don't want to be the guy that was doing the training. You didn't want to be the guy coming to work with his shirt out and practically unbuttoned, and just instead of actually providing good training, they're just venting. Okay, so next one. Task significance. So it's not just what you do, it's why it matters. And this is really big for the rookies that are coming in today. They got to have purpose. So when rookies are partnered with senior staff, they're often used to fill a void. Go run this, go grab that, go stand post while I do this paperwork. And if that's all they're given, the work feels meaningless. Task significance is one of the greatest drivers of job satisfaction. When people feel like what they're doing matters, they stay. When people feel like they're just being used, they don't. So yes, rookies may not yet be ready for complex decision-making, but they should be included in it. They should be brought into the why behind the work. They should be given context, explanation, mentorship, and a space to learn. If they're just the new guy who gets dumped on, they won't be around long enough to become anything more. And I think that's powerful, Russ, because that's what we do, Russ. We provide lessons that go way beyond just the tip. We provide context, and we try to find a way to connect the work to the person that's doing it. And as a mentor, as someone in training, you're going to have to know the people that you train, and you're going to have to find a connection that's purposeful so they can go through the challenges of the day-to-day job. But would you agree with that, Russ? I think a lot of rookies may not understand the significance behind the routine work. So ain't that a chance for us to fill that gap and share our knowledge and experience?
Well, I think there's a lot there. I think that, I'm kind of like with this one. I would be a little bit more focused, on the people who are, handling these rookies and trying to really touch them in a way where they understand they've been given an opportunity to impact their little area of corrections, for years and decades to come, based on how they treat these people. And so, the rookie himself does not know much, does not understand the ins and outs, doesn't understand the negatives, doesn't understand the positives. So it's really about those people who are first, handling them. And those are the people that, I really want to reach. Yeah, I do want to get a chance to talk to rookies. I want to get a chance to, tip them up to what it is that they might encounter, and place them on the path to success, and let them know, hey, it's not all going to be easy, and it's not, definitely not all going to be glory, but the ones that really want to try and change the way they act and react to things are going to be those people who are receiving these individuals and have the chance to really start them on their way.
Yeah, and I never understand why people don't want to take advantage of that opportunity. I mean, we complain that people don't understand our job, and yet we have someone next to us that we could provide them that understanding, and then we cut them off because that person's still connected to the outside world. That person needs that perspective. So the people that sometimes complain that, people don't understand, well, I just put someone next to you. Show them the value. They don't understand the negative or your selfish motives. No, guys, it's about painting a good picture next to them. So, why not let them know the value of the job? It's funny because we get so caught up in the negativity that we lose value behind what we do every day. And that value is what keeps us moving forward. So when you're next to a rookie, why are you not jumping on the chance to, remind them of that purpose? Or did you long forget about it? I mean, that breaks my heart too, but if that's the case, then maybe you should open up and say, you know what? I used to love training, but it's not for me anymore. I'm not that person that should be next to them because my values have shifted a little bit, unfortunately. So if you don't mind, maybe someone else could take the role. And that takes courage too. But if you're just going to push the negativity on a rookie who's just coming in, I think that's also very unfair for the rookie to be overwhelmed with what would be exciting part of his career that day one, and instead you're destroying his momentum or her momentum. All right, so I got leadership's responsibility. Culture isn't passive. So administrators often say they want a positive culture, but culture isn't about intentions. It's about infrastructure. So who are we assigning to train? What are we doing to prepare those trainers? What messaging is being reinforced at the unit level? How visible is leadership during those first few weeks? Is there a structured onboarding process with clear progression, which most places don't have that? And are we following up with new hires or just hoping they adjust? You can't leave that to chance, not anymore. Leadership must be intentional on how rookies are introduced to the facility, from unit assignments to first partners to post-briefing conversations. Everything communicates something. Everything is a data point. And in those early days, they're absorbing it all. You either show them what right looks like, or they'll learn what's wrong. You either show them what right looks like, or they'll learn what wrong gets away with. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, especially the part about, culture not being passive. Culture is something that you have to, cultivate and design and be the architect of. If you're not doing that, culture is just going to take root and go wherever the path of least resistance leads toward. So you cannot let that happen. And so, if you are a supervisor, manager, or admin, and to a lesser degree, maybe the line staff, you have to be setting what those particular paths should look like. And so, you have to go in there. You not only have to have a vision, but you have to start with a philosophy about what it is that we're doing, and at the top of that philosophy, has to be things that encompass like, everyone goes home. And then right next to that is everyone supports everyone else. And, just taking it, through the full range of motion that encompasses what a corrections professional should look like. So that's the beginning of it. And once again, we can always come back to that word, intentionality. If you're not putting intention into what your culture should look like, once again, it's just going to go wherever it wants and towards the path of least resistance.
Yeah, and guys, by the way, not all places, but the default culture of most facilities may lean towards the negative. So as administration, you got to try to get that positive momentum going, and then you have to keep that momentum fueled. I also say it in this book here. I mean, a lot of people go in there trying to solve problems when really, if you just try to fuel momentum, problems will solve themselves. But with that said, you got to know what the default is, and you got to be on top of it. And there's one thing I want to mention here where it says, is there a structured onboarding process with clear progression? Guys, there's in most places they don't have that. All they do is they got some weak orientation where maybe management may come down and say hi. Maybe most of the time that's not the case. They usually get filtered through, and you may get an email in training that, hey, 10 recruits just came in. Sometimes training will invite, but most of the time management really hasn't met them yet. It would be great for them to see at the highest level someone has their back. But then when they're being trained, they're kind of just sent all over the place, and really partnered with people that maybe knew themselves, that are shocked that they got somebody they trained. And then when the rookie at the end of the day is, they may have learned something, but they don't understand what they're heading towards. So I think the progression matters. Is there a way that they know what they're progressing towards? Is there a program that educates them into what they're learning and effort with an end game in mind? So what are we trying to learn today? A, B, C, D. That's great. So we're going to send you here for the day. And at the end of the day, you follow up. So what was the goal for today? Your goal today was to learn about searches. Okay, so let's focus on that today. What did you learn? And this way they know what they're shooting towards, as opposed to just being thrown in the wind and not knowing where they end up. And a lot of facilities don't do that. A lot of facilities don't put the rookies on a progression. And what I mean by the progression, it's got to be an end result, because they need to know that they're shooting towards something, and they also need to know if I'm heading in the right direction. All right. So now we got the vulnerability window, Russ. So new hires are most motivated at the beginning. They want to impress, they want to belong, they want to grow, but they're also the most vulnerable. They don't yet have loyalty to the profession. They haven't found their identity in the job, and their sense of direction is forming based on what they see around them. So if what they see is resentment, shortcuts, or chaos, that becomes the truth. If what they see is unity, support, and a sense of purpose, that becomes their anchor. When they're ignored, mocked, or left to fend for themselves, we're not toughening them up. We're disconnecting them from the very thing that would have kept them here, which is people. I think that's a powerful message. Would you agree, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those things that I think should be foremost in people's minds, because it's really, patently obvious. And yet we're here actually, doing this spot on it. So, why aren't people, cognizant of, how that impacts people, and, that vulnerability window, really is the truth. We need to, start with that and keep them armored, and be, setting their growth pattern, and not just deciding, hey, you look pretty vulnerable there, it's time to snuff you out. And sometimes, I'm not saying every facility is that way. I'm not saying that every place in every facility is that way, but sometimes, those are the first, bad people that they meet, not the inmates, but those people that are looking to do people harm simply because they are vulnerable.
Yeah, and what I said here, like, so if the rookies see resentment, shortcuts, or chaos, that becomes their truth. But if what they see is unity, support, and a sense of purpose, that becomes their anchor. That to me is powerful, because that shows you it's foundational. Because support in this profession, especially at the very beginning when they're vulnerable, because if we're not providing them support, I'll be honest, if I wasn't supported at day one, I probably wouldn't stay. Because the thing is corrections is a very stressful environment. Mistakes at the very beginning, people could take as if it's a career-ending mistake. So when you're not supported, you don't have people going and helping you through these very tough moments. And eventually it becomes so stressful, or worse, just filled with anxiety, that I just don't want this. I don't want this. I'm going to go, and I'm going to go try something different. All right. So now the next part we got is the power of mentorship and structured progression. Every facility should have a mentorship program, not a checkbox, not a warm body, a real program with vetted mentors, intentional progression, and time set aside to debrief. Rookies should feel like they're growing into the position, not just thrown into it. That means gradually increasing responsibility. That means consistent feedback. That means a safe place to ask dumb questions and receive professional, patient answers. When we lack structure, we do default to survival. And when rookies are in survival mode, they don't retain much. They just cope. And Russ, that's important to me too, because again, if you don't feel supported, you're pushed into that survival mode, and now you're expecting me to learn when I just want to get through the day. Would you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, this whole thing, the structured program, and being able to provide mentorship and things like that, and just everything. I mean, what does that sound like? Well, that sounds like Keepers of Chaos and Tear Talk. And so, a lot of these things are born out of the fact that there's nothing there for these people. They look around, and their first instinct should be to try and gain some support from the people that they're around, their facility, their department, and instead they come flocking to us. Why is that? And I'm glad that they come there, but it being social media, we're limited in what we can do and how much support we can give. So I really truly want them to look back to their facility and to their department, And I think that that's one reason. Having received some of the treatment that I did early on in my career, man, when I would have the rookies hit my yard, the first thing that I did, whether it was as a sergeant or whether it was as an officer, is I went out there and I greeted them and I talked to them. And, I told them about, we would often have not just rookies, but many times we would have, cadets coming to my particular yard. And, I would just set them up for absolute success. I would go out there with them and spend them time and talk about, what the gangs were doing and, just give them an idea of how they should respond in case we had something go down. And, later I had, quite a number of them come in and say, wow, you were the only one that did that with us. And all I could ever think about was, really? Why isn't everyone working to put them on the right path? Or whatever that's worth.
No, it's worth a lot. And for anybody that would sit there and disagree with this dialogue, then maybe you are the problem. Because if ever I was 100% behind a video that we're doing, this would be the video. Because if you could sit there and contest this, then obviously you're probably the one that's doing all this and pushing people out, but not taking the accountability for it. And that's kind of where this discussion or this topic came into birth, is because, everybody's constantly blaming one side, when it's like, well, guys, where's the shared accountability? So I'm bringing proof. Here's people to the table. They're not staying. So I could easily push back on your side, but that doesn't solve everything. That just makes it about a win or loss. It's like shared accountability. I think we get to a point now where we're so worried about winning or losing that even when stuff is obvious and it's thrown in your face, you want to argue it and contest it because I'm right and you're wrong. Okay, well, now in this case here, the only person losing that argument is the rookie and the agency. Okay, so I wanted to get a little insight on what it feels to be ignored. So I've seen it too many times. A new recruit full of potential walking into a facility expecting to be welcome. They've passed the academy. They worn the uniform. They believe they're joining something bigger than themselves. And then no one says hello. No one knows their name. They're told to go find so-and-so or stand over there until someone needs you. That moment sticks. That memory imprints. And for some of them, that's the day they mentally check out, even if they stayed physically present. Is that not true, Russ? Have you not seen that in your career? I see it in mine.
I've seen it. I would say though, most people adapt and get beyond that. It might be hard though for us to understand, even through those of us who experience that, how detrimental that is. Where might I be now if I was taken more under the wing and shown more and given better instruction and not left to my own devices, which involved, a lot of self-training and experimenting. And not everyone's on board to do that. Not everyone's capable of that. But I always felt like I could have progressed, further and faster and done more if I'd had a support system there. And so, what are the side effects of some of those things? And I'm obviously I believe in being the captain of your own destiny, as it were. But who knows what my progression might have been? I might have been more willing to take on more responsibilities. I might have been more willing to progress and to promote higher up. I enjoyed my entire career, and so maybe it was me stranding myself there, and I don't mean stranding in a negative or pejorative way, but I think that somewhere in there, things might have been a little bit different and might have ended up a little bit different. But I don't have any regrets. But I'm just saying that that's something I think we need to think about. Where are people ending up because we are not doing enough for them at the very beginning?
Yeah, and guys, just to kind of elaborate a little more too, like, It really shouldn't be a situation where the rookie who's vulnerable already now has to add to the plate of adapting and adjusting to being isolated. Because that's technically what it is. I mean, eventually then what winds up happening is they maneuver through this profession alone, probably in survival mode, and they learn the profession in a way that I wouldn't want it to be introduced to them. Again, it's the people that keep people connected to this profession. You got to see the profession through the people that work it. And that's always what we try to sell here, even on Tier Talk, on Keepers of Chaos, is if you know the people, then you'll understand the profession. Because at the end of the day, the people make the profession. It's not the other way around. So, and there's good people in this profession. But to have a rookie come in, be pushed aside right from day one, when that's when they're trying to belong. That's an automatic thing when someone's coming in. They look to belong. It's a need. They look to belong. It's a need. So if they can't find their way to belong, they're not going to be able to learn. They're not going to be able to do anything because there's too much in their mind about wanting to build that connection. So yeah, I mean, you do have some that will adapt and adjust, but they're not growing with anyone. They're not being guided through. They're just developing their own path into an isolated perspective. And again, I don't put that on because even for me, I think the persistence really doesn't come from you adapting and adjusting to being alone, but not. I think the adapting and adjusting comes from you not settling into one person trying to help you. Like if I can't get help from Russ and I really want to get help from Russ, I hear good things, but he's pushing me off. I don't adapt and adjust and say, screw everyone. I think the persistence really is I have to do what I can to make sure that Russ doesn't become that defining correctional officer for me. Because if I'm vulnerable and I go to Russ and the first thing that Russ does is push me off, it's going to kind of make me think, well, shit, maybe all correctional officers are that way because this is the first one I met. So I have to try to break away from that generality and continue to try to find someone who will help me. And that persistence can be very tiring. So I think the adapting and adjusting may be more related to not giving up and trying to find help as opposed to growing in isolation. Corrections is hard enough. Let's not make it harder. So corrections is a complex profession. That's the truth. There are dangers. There's trauma. There are frustrations and fatigue and systems that don't always function as they should. But the profession itself is still worthy. It still matters. It's still filled with people who care deeply about doing it right. That's what new hires should see. Not a perfect system, but a purposeful one. Not a team without stress, but a team that shows up for each other. And not blind loyalty, but shared responsibility. This is the last part of this passage, Russ, but would you agree? I mean, that's what we teach. It's right there.
Yeah, and that's what we've done all along. We've always tried to point out the things that will make everyone better. And that's all we really want. And that's just what I want to see. I will say that early on in my career, there were moments that were just like almost devastating, that were bad, but there were so many others, but it's the devastating ones that sometimes take root and that you're able to remember later. There's so many other ones that I was, happy to be a part of, where I did have people that, came along and, really were there to show me the way, and that, took me under their wings, showed me some things. And then, I was able to, have this kind of, back and forth that started to elevate me on my way. And, my first year was, kind of really crappy, not necessarily because, I wasn't welcomed or that there were people that, weren't helping me, but it was just, a time of growth. And growth sometimes is painful and uncomfortable. But sometimes, the pain and discomfort are necessary, to get you past that certain point where you're really primed to start truly making a difference. So that's what I would say about that. And I'm proud of what Keepers of Chaos has done. I'm proud to come here on Tier Talk often and be able to share my voice, because if I have a burning desire about my former and somewhat current profession, it's that I want to help those people. I want to be there to make corrections better, and I want something that's going to have a lasting impact beyond my involvement, beyond my grave, perhaps.
Right. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is where you make that impact. The key insight I have here is the way you welcome someone into this profession will echo through their entire career. First impressions don't just set expectations, they set trajectories. They either align someone with the mission or isolate them from it. If we want people to stay, we have to show them immediately why this job is worth it. That starts with how we greet them, who we assign to them, what we expose them to, and how we nurture the early days. A staff member's first day should reflect your culture's best day, because anything less sends the wrong message about the journey they just started. And that's the key. They just started. And that message, and that's a message they may never unhear. Guys, so for me, guys, it's important to get this message out, because at the end, it's our responsibility to welcome it. It's not the rookie's responsibility. If we give them a chance to feel included, and give them an environment where they're able to learn, then that's when they start to contribute. That's when they start to innovate, and that's what we want. We want innovation. But sometimes if you close the door right from the get-go, what's the sense of them even staying? It's the beginning of the career. I'm not invested. There's nothing keeping me here. The only thing that's keeping me here is you. So if you don't want me here, you don't have to say it. I can feel it, and I'll just go with my feeling. Russ, did you give your closing thought yet?
Yeah, I think that was it,
right.
Pretty much. But it's always great to just be able to do something that I think is going to help someone out there, because the beginning really can be a struggle, regardless of what the people that are supporting you are doing or aren't doing. They can be very supportive, and you're still going to struggle. So I think that's just something that I always want people to know is I'm always trying to make time for somebody, and my time is limited. I know that, and sometimes I'm not the greatest about getting back on on emails and things like that. But I do always try.
That's what we do. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.